When you hear the word hood, you often think of a person, a place, and perhaps even a thing. Welcome to Muhlenberg County Ghost Stories from the Hood, narrated by the one and only Sir Creepsta. Tonight's tale of terror is entitled Footprints in the Snow, Skunk Ape of Muhlenberg. When telling stories from the hood, let me be crystal clear. They don't always involve ghosts, demons, or anything dealing with the supernatural. There are those that dealt with entities much more human-like, two-footed creatures that seemingly roamed the hood as well. Although there were several stories of this type, there's one in particular that once again involved me as well as my younger brother Randall. It's one that terrified us so much as kids that after we experienced it, it would be months before we'd even go outside after dark. And many years later, we still get cold chills just mentioning that terrifying morning. Back in 1971, my brother and I were two young kids growing up in the hood. He was 8 and I was 11-year-old big brother. To me, Central City appeared to have two sides. There was a good side that as kids most of us were fortunate enough to have been a part of. And then there was the dark, eerily creepy side. It would hide its ugly face until night after early morning. For weeks leading up to the event I will tell about, there was a strange, eerie feeling in the air. Almost as if something was lurking in the shadow, just waiting on the right time to show its ugly face. This wouldn't take long. The house we lived in was located about 100 feet from the railroad tracks that cut through the neighborhood. There were no street lights by the tracks, so at night you were unable to see anything on them other than the lights from the train engines that passed through periodically throughout the night. Whenever the weather started to warm up, I would spend a lot of time outside on our front porch at night. It was a concrete porch, and at night I would lie down on it, talking on the telephone and enjoying the coolness that it gave to my body. While lying there, I would often hear sounds of something running or walking up and down the tracks, but rarely would I see anything. This happened to me the entire summer when I was out on the porch. By fall, the sounds had become so creepy that I simply stopped hanging out there after dark. Because Central City was so small and my family was so large, there was always a relative or two living nearby. In this case, as a matter of fact, it was my great-great-grandmama Lou, who lived directly across the tracks from me and my family. And her and Mama would see each other usually on a daily basis, either Mom going over to her house or Grandmama Lou coming over to ours. But now fall had come and gone, and winter had set in. And on one particular night, Grandmother made her later call than usual. And when I opened the door for her, she asked where was Mama. The two of them went into the kitchen, and I overheard her and her mama talking. Their conversation was short, but to the point. And although they were speaking in a very low tone, I was still able to hear the gist of their conversation, especially the part about the wild man or something having been spotted down there and around near Graham. Immediately, my heart nearly stopped beating as a feeling of pure fear overtook my entire body. I went into my brother's room and I told him what I'd overheard Mama and Granny talking about. But being as young as he was, Randall really didn't understand what I was telling him about the wild man. And even though he had lots of questions pertaining to it, it really didn't hit him the same way that it hit me. Except he really wanted to know just how far away Graham was from us. And because I played Little League Baseball, I was able to assure him that Graham wasn't close at all to where we lived, and that we were safe. So finally, around 10 p.m., we both called it night and fell into a deep sleep. My dad was an avid hunter, and he had around 3 beagle hounds. The pen in which he housed the dogs was on the side of the house, located near my and my brother's bedroom. For the most part, considering they were hound dogs, they were quiet dogs. But on this particular night, this was all changed. I can't recall the exact time the barking started. All I remember is Mama waking me up. She was asking Pops to get up and do something about all the loud-ass barking his dogs were doing. By now I had gotten up out of bed, and I remember seeing Daddy getting dressed and grabbing his 12-gauge shotgun and going out the door. He wasn't gone long. The dog seemed to immediately stop barking once Dad started yelling at them. When Daddy got back inside, I heard him telling Mom that the only thing he saw was that all the snow that had fallen overnight, and they didn't know what caused the dogs to act the way they were acting. This brought a huge sigh of relief over me, and as soon as daylight hit, I was wide awake. It suddenly dawned on me that Dad had mentioned to Mom that it snowed the night before. So out of anticipation to see exactly how much snow had fallen, I pulled back the curtains in front of the window beside my bed. And to my disbelief, what I saw filled my body with complete fear. For leading up to our window was a pair of the largest footprints I had ever saw. At the time I wore a size 11, and I could see that I could easily fit my shoes inside the tracks with plenty of room to spare. My brother and I had bunk beds at that time, and I recall shaking my brother like crazy to wake him up and see the enormous footprints. Once Randall saw them too, he was scared to death, just by the look on his face. We both ran to our parents' room and told Daddy, who was already dressed and was about to head off to work. With his shotgun already leaning beside the door the night before, he grabbed it and ran outside to check on his dogs. And to his surprise, not only were the footprints beside our window, they were all over the side of the house. So he went around the house to the back to see if he could tell where the tracks had come from. But because of the large amount of snow that had fallen, he was unable to do so. And although my father could not determine what had caused those footprints, me and my brother, it was a whole different case. There was a doubt in our mind that the footprints were made by the same wild man or wild thing that Granny had told Mom about just the night before. And to this very day, there's not a doubt in our minds that the offspring of those creatures still roam the woods and the hoods of Muhlenberg County. Stay tuned next week for another terrifying tale about the one and only Sir Creepsta. And until then, stay terrified.